Book of Exodus chapter 25 verse 8, we come in one more time. Let them build me a sanctuary so that I can dwell amongst them. The first presentation we have been running on was to introduce us to the entrance of the sanctuary, looking at the physical emblems that are found within the sanctuary and their significance on the spiritual line also, and how we can access the physical things. And while we are doing the physical things, we actually have access into the spiritual dimensions. So we have washed our hands at the door. We have brought in our bread into the house. We have switched on the lights of our understanding and our minds. We are approaching the altar of burnt incense, and our prayers together with the incense, they fill up the house of the Lord and they rise up into the nostrils of God like a beautiful, beautiful aroma. Today I want us to look at what is behind the curtain. But before we go behind the curtain, we need maybe to discuss the concept of the curtain. A curtain for me represents separation. It talks about division, two different dimensions altogether. And there are about 4 compartments to the sanctuary. The outer court, which is the outer, that becomes the villages and the tents where people are living. Then you come into the inner courts where you are conducting your sacrifices and you are killing your lambs and burning them and washing your hands and washing your feet. As we said earlier on, this is where sin is dealt with on the outside. And when you have done your forgiveness, if you've done your confessions and everything else, wash your hands and you enter into the temple. Don't forget, do outside what must be done on the outside. Then God can do on the inside what must be done on the inside. So by the time you enter, actually the issues of your sin and everything else have been handled on the outside part. But within, then you are eating the word. And while you are eating the word, you are also looking at the light which illumines the word which you are consuming. Then you have access to prayer because you have become clean in preparation for your prayers. It's more important, therefore, for us to mention that preparing to pray is more important than prayer. Preparation for interaction, far much more important than the act itself. And many of us are in a hurry for the act. Now, let me not say too much. My mind almost moved to the married people. Most of us are in a hurry for the act. And we forget that prior to the act, there's a whole lot of activities that happen preparing for the act itself. And similarly in the temple also, we don't want to forget doing what we must do. Hence even the Bible says, if you're on your house to the place of worship, on your way to the house of worship, and then you remember that you have a problem, you have a debt, you have a quarrel, an unsettled argument with a brother, a sister on the wayside, and while you are dragging the innocent lamb which you are going to butcher, the Lord says, I'm not interested in your offering. Just leave that animal where it is, tie it on a tree or somewhere else, or take it back home if you can. Go back, fix your issues. And after you have resolved your issues, then you can come. And by the way, resolving those issues did not mean you're going to take 10 minutes. It could take you a day. You may end up even missing the service for the day. But the Bible is saying the real service is not appearing in a structure when your spirit has not appeared in the other structure. Therefore, we do not glorify our presence in churches when people who are inside the churches have not yet been to the real church. Therefore, we need to settle in our spirits first. Go back, fix, come back and worship. And when you enter into this place, then you find into the next to the incense, altar of burnt incense, there's this big, huge curtain. And many of us are excited because then when the sermon goes boom, then the curtain was cut from top to bottom, exposing what was the holy and the most holy place becoming the same space. But then before we hurry in cutting the curtain, can we just look at the curtain and appreciate the curtain? That it separates now what we've been doing. All the services we've been doing on the physical realm, they are now duplicated on the spiritual realm behind the curtain. And the curtain represents this blanket, this shadow. The other time I got excited and I said, that's why we say let's close our eyes for prayer. For when we have our eyes closed, we have now almost transcended into the space of the spiritual, the space of the supernatural. God is not far. He's just behind the curtain. Here, we do all these things like God is in heaven, when in fact He's just behind the curtain. Therefore, if you are looking for Him, close the curtains. You may just discover when you close your eyes All of a sudden, there's no hunger, there's no starvation, there's no material, there's no color, there is no rich, there's no poor. Darkness covers everything. And from this space, behind the curtain, the impossible becomes possible. And if we can learn to work with these curtains that separate life and death, these curtains that separate the holy and the most holy place, these curtains that preserve God and that protect us from Him, only in moments of life would the high priest go behind the curtain and then to clean up the furniture and etc. But the curtain represents the obstruction. Curtain represents the bridge of faith. That what you are looking for is not far from you. It only means you cannot see it. That's why Abraham is told, okay, don't kill the boy. The lamb is just here next to you. Elijah says, don't worry, young man. Don't worry, young man. He looks up into the heavens and says, please, Lord, just open up his eyes that he can see that there are more who are with us than those that are against us, than those that are with them. Therefore, it does not mean that God has been far all along, but He has just been behind the curtain. And it takes an act of grace to remove the cataracts in our eyes to see what is behind the curtain. And many of us want to peep behind the curtain and we want to see what is behind the curtain. And when you go there with physical eyes, all you will find is a piece of furniture. Literally a piece of furniture. And you can even go home and say, come on, for all this time, I think there's holiness here. I can go home and make myself my own small little lentil. You have missed the point. It's not about the furniture. It's what it represents. And many of us have relationships, but we have missed the curtain. We have properties, but we have missed the curtain. We have money, but we have missed the curtain. For it is not in the physical substance that there is meaning. But when you close your eyes, behold, the curtain was cut from top to bottom. Oh, may the Lord help you that in the midst of our foolishness, may the curtain be opened, that we can see that there is spirituality behind the physicality. You enter into the most holy place once in a year, or at one ment. Not atonement. We're in a hurry. It's at one ment. When we are now joining things together, cleaning up this place and removing everything else that does not belong in the sanctuary. It must now get outside. Come on, hear me well. Can I become a preacher for a little while? Because now you know that sin must be kept in the house of the Lord for a year. This is the storeroom of sin for the whole nation. It accumulates here. Therefore, sin is not a human problem. Sin is a divine problem. The storeroom is not in your heart. The storeroom is in the house of the Lord, where it must be cleaned by the high priest himself. Now you can read the Bible and enjoy it in the book of Hebrews. We have a great high priest who has entered into the heavens. And as he enters into the heavens, we pray that also he enters into our churches and he also enters into our hearts. That the day of atonement becomes the day where we are at one ment, at one alignment together with him. The great connection between humanity and divinity. You enter into this most holy place, you find a piece of furniture that is decked in gold. I like that part there. The expensive nature of God. Most expensive stuff. That which we are working for on the outside all year round. It is with the presence of the Lord in abundance. Yeah. As if to say, poverty could be everywhere else. But when you enter here, the space of abundance. So you find it decked with gold. I like the next part. And then you find this ark actually had 4 sides to it. And just the other day I got excited. Because every time God was about to do something, or he had done something, or was being remembered for something, you have all these passages that constantly says, and he built an altar. And he built an altar. Even Jacob, he built an altar. Abraham, and he built an altar. And then I asked myself, what is this, the business of building altars? But in old age now, I've also read the book of Revelation that says, and I saw the 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the world, holding the winds, so that they would not fall upon the earth. I got it from there. So if there are 4 angels that are holding the 4 winds of the earth, And the altar and the ark also has 4 sides to it. Therefore, when you make an altar, therefore, you take 1 stone and put it on the eastern side. You take 1 stone and put it on the northern side. You take 1 stone and put it on the south side. You take 1 stone and put it on the west side. And when you stand inside the 4 corners, you are actually in a sanctuary. You build it here. And you stand inside. So when you find yourself in the wilderness and there are no more churches that you can go to, a simple one. This is how you make an altar. Just go around, pick up a stone. Put 1 stone east side, west side, north side, and south side. Stand inside. Call on the 4 angels that are holding the 4 corners of the world and tell them to stand guard while you are beginning the business of having a conversation with your Father. And now when you say, build me a sanctuary so that I may dwell amongst you, if we cannot have power to build buildings, then maybe we need to make altars in our homes. Altars where we can call our children inside these altars. And we can stand in the midst of it all and have a connection with God. And the 4 corners of the ark represents the 4 corners of the world. Ash, beautiful right there. Therefore, I don't need to worry myself much if I don't have time for mortar and brick. I can make an ark. I can make a sanctuary wherever I am. And God can be worshipped right there. Then you check inside the ark. You find some few pieces of furniture, few pieces of emblems that we need to discuss. Number 1, you find there is manna inside the ark. By the way, you need to understand the mystery of preservation. The refrigerator of heaven that does not expire. We know that manna had 24 hours expiry dates. And only on Friday did it extend to 48 hours. After that, worms would eat it up and it would rot. But when you get into the ark space, there was a dish of manna kept in its freshness. Now, it means God is able to preserve provisions in the midst of scarcity, in the midst of decay. And when they are in His presence, they are constantly kept in the fresh. For the one who manufactures them can protect them. Now, I'm speaking at the time where Corona is harvesting and harassing many of us. Or may we be preserved like manna within the corridors of the ark. That when what we thought would decay in our own, in the presence of grace, may there be a preservation. And another miracle you find on manna is that when you step into the promised land, manna stops falling. I like that part also. Manna stops at the river Jordan. Because manna is only for emergencies. It's not for constant provisions. And many of us are always waiting for manna. No, when you enter the promised land, you don't pray for manna. You plow. You work. Land of milk and honey is land of labor and sweat. Manna is only used for emergency purposes. When the Lord needs to show up and show off a little bit. But when He gives you your land, you can't be waiting for manna. So I want to tell people that in the midst of us waiting for a miracle of grace, let's not forget to labor and work for our protection, work for our health and well-being. For manna will not protect us in the land of the promise. Right now, presumption and too much of this fake manufactured faith, where you've been living a life of disobedience all your life. And all of a sudden, because there's Corona, you want to activate faith. The Lord must protect me now in the midst of faith. We will continuously gather. We will meet. Our faith must take us. You can't even have faith to keep your zip up. And all of a sudden, because there's Corona, you want to challenge God and say, please protect me. It almost takes me to Matthew. Jesus is told, fall from the roof of the building and the angels will catch you. To which He looked at the devil and says, don't tempt God. There are things we need to know how to stay away from. And right now, for sanity purposes, stay away. You're always in the business of playing with other people's children. Now play with your children. Manna represents a miracle, but Canaan represents labor. So do what is physically possible and allow God to do what is physically impossible for you. That is a miracle of grace. Therefore, we cannot be presumptuous, fold our hands and just hope and wish and pray that God will protect us when we touch our faces and we don't sanitize ourselves. Come on, guys. It doesn't work like that. Manna don't work like that. Manna, we need it in the wilderness when there is no field we can plow in. Now we are in the space where I think all of us are in our own spaces. Let us do what we can and allow God to connect behind the curtain what we cannot do on the other side of the curtain. Manna is there as a means, a demonstration that God always protects and provides his own. You look again inside the ark, you find that there was a rod of Aaron. Leadership, direction, the appointment of the heavenly office. It's at moments such as these that we ask all the fathers who are in their homes, please find your rod. Yes, you heard me well. Find your rod. Both physically and again I come uncomfortably, spiritually. And some of you who have so much understanding of spirituality, you may miss this lesson altogether. I said, find a rod. And when you talk to your children, hold your rod in your hand. I didn't say use it on them, but they must know it's available. It's available. It's a sign of authority. It's a sign of direction. That's why Psalm says, thy rod and thy staff depends how God is holding it. But the same can work either way, to help you out of problems or to bring some discipline to you. But when a father speaks to a child and is holding the rod, you better be at a distance where I cannot touch you. And this rod is kept in the ark as a remembrance that in as much as me and you are in a relationship, but this relationship is managed by discipline, by leadership, by direction. And only fools hate counsel. You advise a fool, they will beat you up and mock you. But give advice to a wise man, they will thank you and they will appreciate you. And God allows this rod to be kept inside the ark as a demonstration that I have chosen this man Aaron to lead you. I have chosen this man who is ministering and his children, even if Aaron dies. But when they look into the ark and they find the rod of Aaron, they know that the generation that is serving us on the physical side has been appointed in the spiritual realm. I cannot say much, but I wish we could have a relationship with our leaders that would transit us to that level. That when we see them appear, we want to believe that they have been behind the curtain. They have had conversations behind the curtain. So that when we see them, we can trust them. That God is at work in them, with them, and through them, salvation can come to us. Not only that, you peep again into the ark. 3 things only. Plate of manna, the rod of Aaron. Oops, just when you thought you forgot about it. There is the template of the 10 commandments. Side by side. Here is governance issues. Here are the principles to live by. I'll say the most uncomfortable thing, God does not need the law. Because where he lives, there's no sin. We need the law. God does not need the law. Because he does not get sick. We need the law. God does not need the law. Because you never go to prison. We need the law. We don't keep the law for the Lord. We keep it for ourselves. Thou shalt not kill. If what I'm saying is too bad and you don't believe me, go on and kill. Begikele will come for you. In the prison, he will take care of you. Therefore, the law does not preserve God. The law preserves us. In as much as we may talk even the Sabbath issues, the Sabbath is of the Lord. Don't get excited. This was created for men. The Sabbath was created for man, not man for the Sabbath. No, it sounds uncomfortable. It means therefore that man is the one who benefits From working for 6 days and resting once in a while, gather some strength and breathe some fresh air of heaven. Swing your grace into the presence of God. It almost gets nicer there. You don't want to come back, but the week must call you. That's why we never close the Sabbath. We open it and we don't close it, because the blessings of the Sabbath must flow into the rest of the week. And many of us are in a hurry to close the Sabbath because we want to go back to mischief. Because where we were, it was uncomfortable. And where the devil is, that's where the fun is. So when are we closing the Sabbath? But if it has been good enough, like Peter who can say, shall we not make some tents right here? And let us just stay here a little while longer. There, you find the 10 commandments staring at you. Don't make any images of anything. Don't do this. Don't. Remember your fathers and your mothers. Principles to live by, not laws to manage each other over. And this furniture inside the ark reminds us on the basic structures on which the heavenly sanctuary is built on. 2. If we are to build our churches on the earthly realm, then these furnitures must be duplicated in our midst. But now that church has moved its address to our homes, I think we need to tear the curtain and allow ourselves to enter into the most holy place. I'll say this uncomfortably so, but for a reason of opening up the journey. Italy has extended its quarantine up to July. And we are just on the first 21 days of the catastrophe. Our figures have grown from 79 to 120 to 500 to 700. We're sitting on 1,500 plus now. We don't know at the end of the 21 days if we will be under or will be over. And what do we do about those that are infected on the 18th and on the 19th and on the 20th day? Do we allow them to go back in the community and infect others? It's a decision. It's a decision that a government must make. But that's not where I'm going. I'm going the other direction. In case this lingers longer. So who will conduct the communion service? In case it lingers longer. And someone is at a deathbed right now about to die. Who will baptize them? In case this lingers longer. I mean, listen to Jeremiah. You guys are going to go to slavery. You are going to go to Babylon. But while you're in Babylon, please get your children married, build houses, look after that country. When they succeed, you too are succeeding. Please take note, it will be for a time that you're going to be in that land. And if ever we are supposed to be thoughtful, the question we must be asking ourselves, if it extends, who will stand in the gap? What will we do? Even if it is cut short, I hope you'll have learned the lessons quicker. This is like a small little pinch on the bum of Christians. Ping. We've been talking about persecution. We've been fantasizing about the last days. You know, the Lord is coming. The saints are going to go to the mountains. We are going to be what? You cannot even spend a day without Coke and having some sweet sugar in your tongue. And yet you talk about persecution times. You must be dreaming. It's an illusion of the highest order. You must stop smoking that weed. Because the reality of it is that we have built up churches, but we have not built up the members to face up with the reality which now stares us up in the eyes. So every man must become a priest in his own home. Please. And every man must be allowed to baptize his own children, his own wife, his own mother. Do you believe? Do you believe? Yes, I believe. I believe. To the swimming pool. Come, madam, send us some WhatsApp messages, send up some WhatsApp pictures, tell us we've baptized one member. We will wire to you the baptismal certificate. We have an extra member. The church grew in the wilderness much more than it grew in buildings. It's unfortunate that we have kept all the criminals in the churches and the saints have been sitting at home. Now it's time, and I'm glad. God has got a weird sense of humor.
In 1 week, he has fired all the ministers, with all the fake ministers with them. The other one was actually complaining that his bills are now high. Can the members please remember him also and wire him some offerings and tithes while he's in hiding also away from coronavirus? Where is your faith, pastor? All along we thought that ministry was employment. You fail high school, you fail matric, you fail college. Try the ministry. Try the ministry. As if you are crippled, you don't have your own hands. Time to labor has come. And I think this for me is a great equalizer. It allows us now to speak with confidence, and truth will come out and liars will be exposed. The time is now. The ark is now moving from heaven to the church, and for 200 years since Adventism came to South Africa through Kimberley, we have always looked at the church as the center and the beacon of hope, waiting for the printing of the Sabbath schools and waiting for the program. When is the week of prayer? When is the Docus? When is the Amor? When is the Yom? When is the what? When is the what? We became actually an events management company. Now the address has moved to your house. Let me conclude by reminding you, during the times of David, when the Israelites had sinned and the ark was taken by the Philistines, it says wherever the ark was, people became sick and etc. when they were there, until they said to themselves, no man, this thing, I don't mean to go too far, things that don't belong to you, sicknesses follow you. I'm not here to condemn Britain or condemn Spain or condemn Rome, but also in the back of my head, the pastor in me says I can't keep quiet. I must also mention that these things were stealing away from the Africans for all along. When were you going to repay them and bring them back? So maybe when you take sacred things that belong to other people and make them yours, you might just be ordering sicknesses and diseases for yourself, both physically and spiritually. Until David says, let's bring it home. You just missed that part there. Let's bring it home from the foreign lands. I like that part there. Let's bring church home. Let's bring this God back home. Let's bring this furniture back home. And when it came back home, there was a panic in the house. I know many of us as fathers and mothers are panicking. Because all along, dress up children, we're going to go to church. And I have 5, 6 women in my house, and I've heard my wife's voice cracking through the roofs. Every Sabbath morning is not a beautiful morning for me, for their voices are shooting up high, kids, makeup, clothes, shoes are missing, and what? It's a chaos. I know we are panicking because the fake pictures we've always been demonstrating at churches. Maranatha in Nkosieza. The fool talking is not even talking to his wife. Greet somebody in Jesus' name. Say, I love you to your neighbor. Okay, please say neighbor, neighbor. Now there's no more neighbor. Now you must face the devil in your own house. You have been telling and making announcements and declaring who must be disfellowshipped and who must be infellowshipped. I'm watching this space giggling like a watcher from the future. And I look down in the plains below and I'm saying, Nazo. Finally, the chickens have come home to roost. Now you're busy having a status in church. In your jacket and in your ties. You knew exactly what must happen in church and what must not happen in church. May the Lord give me grace to visit you. And I want to see if what you were doing in church is now what you are doing in your house. Everyone was scared when they heard the ark was coming back home. And one old man says, please, I can keep it for you. I can keep the ark for you. Follow the conclusion of the sermon. The old man who took in the ark, the Bible then says, there was a blessing upon his house. You didn't hear me well there. Where the ark was, there was no sickness in his house. You didn't hear me out there. Where the ark was, his goats started giving birth to triplets and quad triplets and quadruples. His cows multiplied. His fields were not infected by insects. Why? Because the ark was now resident in his house. Maybe it is safe time for me to conclude and say, the ark is in your house. May the grace of the Lord rest upon it. May the glory of the Almighty Yah come upon your houses. May sicknesses and diseases be kept out of the house. May your provisions be constantly sure. May your dreams be clear by night and visions by day. May your children not see sicknesses. May your women have triplets and quads while the ark is in the house. Or when it is leaking everywhere and everyone is dying, may you be preserved in the midst of it all. And what preserves you? It's what you have taken inside your house. I said, the church has moved its address.
Jehovah is your name. Jehovah is your name. Jehovah is your name. Jehovah